Don't mock. I'm not a fool. And people who know me personally know that I am not a fool. But I won't get into the details of those. I just want people to realize that I'm not a fool. Don't mock. I'm not a fool. Don't mock. I'm not a fool.
Hey there, it's Tony here, and welcome to episode 75 of the Dumb Leaders podcast. I'm just sitting here enjoying a cup of coffee up here in Queensland, Australia, where we don't have the most draconian lockdowns in place at the moment. But I guess there is an expectation that it will come again, especially where we see governments that are jumping at shadows and really trying to stay abreast, I guess, of the health advice, and I'm going to presume good intention, the health advice that they're getting. And a classic example last night, and I guess one of the reasons why I wanted to come out and record a podcast this morning, was one of the classic things that happened last night was that New Zealand has gone back into stage 3 lockdowns in Auckland and level 2 everywhere else. And it's on the back of 4 cases that have occurred in one single family in Auckland. So immediately straight into level 3 lockdown. And for granted, it's only for 3 days. But it's been an interesting thing to observe on Twitter, the response from both the New Zealand people and international people, what Jacinda Ardern has actually done, putting it into lockdown for 3 days. So equally divided, I would imagine that you've got a lot of Jacinda fans out there that are saying what strong, decisive leadership, first signs of trouble. They went 100 days, more than 100 days without a COVID case. So very strong, decisive leadership, lock it down, sort it out. And I guess one of the compelling things around this particular family outbreak was that there is no reason. It would appear that they've just picked up COVID, and they're quite concerned about that, and quite rightly so. I can certainly understand and have the reasons for justifications. But equally on this, I would imagine the Twitter judgment is really quite 50-50. You've got the fans that are saying strong, decisive leadership, and you've got the many other sides. And I'm taking in New Zealand, there's many other sides. They talk about a lot of minority parties over there. There's many other sides of point of view that are just criticising the decision and really criticising her. Now, one of the main reasons behind the criticism, I guess, is that there is an election happening over there in September, I believe, September 19 or September 20. I might have the dates wrong, but it's in September, and they're very firmly in election mode, and there is a strong sense that, you know, the countries, states, I know here in Australia, we've got our state government election here in Queensland coming up in October. And I know that there is a absolute reliance on health advice from the Premier of Queensland, Anastasia Palaszczuk, in determining the measures for the community. And I'd imagine, based on some of the commentary that I've seen, that the similar thing is true over there in New Zealand. That there is a reliance or an extreme reliance on the health advice that is being provided. Many would say it's an absolutely extreme response, 4 cases and a lockdown. But she's, as I said, Jacinda Ardern is equally despised and praised. So I guess that doesn't necessarily say. The interesting scenario is there is a party in New Zealand, I think it's called the New Zealand Public Party, who've been saying for the last month that a second lockdown was going to be planned. So this is playing into that political side of conspiracy that potentially is out there. And, they've got, and I watched a video this morning from the leader of the Public Party who was stating quite clearly that they've got advice and documents from high levels of government and all that sort of thing. And so I'm not going to doubt that person's integrity, and they believe what they believe. But I guess it really does ask the question, because, we've got an election in the United States, we've got elections here in Australia, we've got elections in New Zealand, and now we've got, people that are quite honestly just wanting some answers and to some questions, and potentially they're not getting it, but they're seeing the political ramifications, they're seeing political stocks rise because of the extreme measures that they're taking to kick this deadly virus. But in saying that, there's continuing lasting impacts on the economy, on mental health, on suicide rates. So we're seeing increases in all these other areas, but ultimately we're not. The natural fear that people have in relation to this unseen, unheard, deadly killer, the virus that's out there. And they're seeing the people that are protecting them in a very much a positive light. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens as we continue to move through. And, at this stage, based on what we've seen, the virus first came into our lives and our minds probably early in the year. I know for me it was very much February that it really started, because of some of the personal impacts that it had on me and our travel and running plans for the year. But now that we're still sitting here in August, and it's, we seem to be no further ahead in how we control or combat or defeat or suppress or eliminate or whatever words people want to use. The virus appears to be winning. And I guess that this is one of the real conundrums that we face. We're seeing statistics out of Sweden, for example, and they've got their caseload numbers still high, but the death rate is decreasing. So they're saying that's a positive thing because they've followed a herd immunity here. Yet here in, say, the state of Queensland, where we get one case and all of a sudden we're jumping at shadows again and we're locking things down. So it's really quite an interesting conundrum. And at the moment, I don't see this being resolved anytime soon. I think 2020 is almost going to be a wasted year for many, many people because of this fear complex that people get into and the fear of doing anything, We've got an over-reliance, potentially as seen by some people, on the health advice, and that's going to obviously have some ramifications on the economy and people's financial. There's financial impacts that we will still be bearing in years to come. So at this stage, you've got to say that the virus is winning, and because of the valid questioning that people have, people tend to spiral into a couple of different things. We've seen self-interest with people and organisations. We've certainly have. We've seen people very much judgmental. The whole thing about this virus, it's personal responsibility. If everyone took personal responsibility for their own social distancing, their own cleanliness, their own decision making about when they should be going out, I think we would be in a much better place. But it's far too easy for us to go down the local shop and then post on our social media that there's no social distancing happening down there at Kmart, So if everyone was personally responsible, I think we would not become, and I'd imagine it's everywhere that people are becoming this whole nation of dobbers, of judgy McJudge faces, as someone once used to relate back to me. So we've got some challenges, and it's not just 2020 that we're going to lose. At this stage, I would imagine a large proportion of 2021 is going to be under these sorts of guidelines and these sorts of restrictions that we're living under. I just hope that one day we all accept the fact that this virus isn't going away anytime soon, and we've got to find a way as humans to be able to live with this particular virus, and do it in a way that doesn't kill people's livelihoods or force people into, suicides and mental health issues, domestic violence. We're seeing spikes in all of those areas. So all based around what the health advice is telling us to do, stay at home. And it's just going to be a very interesting world in which we live. One of the things that I did want to share is that there's Channel 7, I think she's a political reporter, Chanel Vella, has been posting on Twitter every day, and she's calling it the Daily Dickheads. And to be honest, I'm loving it. It's a little bit of fun in these challenging times. And what she's doing, obviously she gets response. She gets notification of people that have been arrested breaking the isolation rules. So she's posting up every day these Daily Dickheads, which I think is just classic. So let's have a look at some of those, shall we? So this is from, let me just get the date. This is from 20 hours ago. So obviously this was yesterday. 202 dickheads fined. She's called it the Daily Dickhead, so good on her. 3 people fined after a video emerged of them filming themselves going out after the curfew hours at approximately 2:30 a.m. on Sunday morning to get takeaway food from a fast food restaurant in the CBD. Wow. My question there would be, why is a fast food restaurant open at 2:30 a.m. in the morning when there is a curfew on? But anyway, neither here nor there. Police attended an address in Melbourne where they located a male who was not from the residence. He stated he was there to practice DJing. A male and female in Meadow Heights outside of the curfew hours last night claimed they were out to get a drink. Man sitting in his car in a Maribyrnong car park over 5 kilometres from his residence. He stated his housemate's intimate partner was over and the couple were being too loud in the bedroom, so he left the house to get some peace and quiet. I think we've all been there. People that have lived in a share house have been there, so I don't begrudge that dude. Multiple people attending convenience stores to purchase food, cigarettes or milk outside of the curfew hours. So that was from yesterday. So the Daily Dickhead, it's something that is happening. And who would have thought that we were going to see people fined with for sitting in a car 5 kilometres away from their home. But I guess this is what the world that we're living in. So, let's have a look at the next one. This was from, obviously, the 10th of August, so it's not necessarily a Daily Dickhead thing. 276 dickheads fined, and this was a record, so woohoo to Victoria, well done. 27 fines issued for those who were travelling to or attended a protest in the CBD. So that was the anti-mask protest that was being planned, and this is where I get a bit confused, because we're being told we're all in this together, yet there's certainly segments of the population that don't believe that they're in this, let alone that we're all in this together. We've seen Black Lives Matter, we've seen anti-mask up here in Queensland, we've got a refugee protest once again that's wanting to block off the Story Bridge. So we're not all in this together, and that's the reality. That's what people are seeing. So, and people are seeing these people being given liberties around protests, and obviously these masked people weren't given liberties, but all the Black Lives Matter rallies were given liberties. There were mass gatherings of, I think there was 10,000 or something in most of the capital cities here. And while there has been some relative work done, that there were some cases of community transmission in the Melbourne one, most of the other ones have come away scot-free. But what that then highlighted to people was, from a mindset perspective, was maybe people's attitudes changed. Maybe some people said, well, if they're allowed to do it, I'm allowed to do it. Maybe other people said, well, obviously it's not as bad as what it seems, because if 10,000 people can get together. So I think that that's been a real pivotal point of people's mindset, that, you know, maybe they sensed a little bit of unfairness, or maybe they just sat back and thought, well, hang on, if there's 30,000 people in that particular rally and they're marching side by side and there wasn't a case of COVID, I mean, is it really as bad as what people are saying? So now I'm not suggesting that that's the case, but I know that that's what potentially some people have thought. I know that I would have done the same thing. If I was running a retail establishment like I used to do, I would have very clearly the next day been quite relaxed about what was going to happen in my store, because if it's good enough for them, it's good enough for me. And I think a lot of that mindset will have been attributed right around the community. Back to the Daily Dickheads. I'll only go through this one. A male was observed running across Edgedale Road in Kew overnight. He said he was just getting cigarettes, despite being aware of the curfew in place. A vehicle located in a car park at Campbellfield with 4 people inside, all from different addresses, claiming to be hanging out. After receiving a noise complaint, police attended an address in Wyndham and located 5 people in a garage drinking and smoking, listening to loud music. A male was located in Yarra, more than 5 kilometres from his address. He claimed he was catching up with friends for a drink. Once again, I thought establishments were closed, but I might be wrong. A male and a female travelled around 5 kilometres to go to a playground in Wyndham to play with their children, as they claimed they were sick of walking around their local area. You know, and quite right, like, I read all of these and I think to myself, okay, they're not the world's most evil events, but, you know, in a place like Victoria where community transmission has been happening, I think it's probably, you know, I certainly understand you've got to be doing what you need to be doing to try and combat this thing. Because at the moment, ladies and gentlemen, the virus is winning, no matter where you are. Even in New Zealand, the virus has kicked back up from nothing. So how you can go 100 days without transmission and then suddenly pick up the virus in a family, I've just got no idea. So, but anyway, that's the podcast for today. I just wanted to get up there and have a chat. Now, I haven't even spoken about what's going on in America. I haven't even spoken about, all I've focused on is our cousins across the way in New Zealand. You either love or despise the decision that has been made. As I said, these impacts that we're feeling with the coronavirus are going to be with us for a long, long time. No amount of lockdowns at the moment seems to be curbing or killing or curing or eliminating the virus whatsoever. And I think as everyday people, we need to learn that this virus is going to be here for a while, and I've got to learn to live with that. So what does that mean for me? What's the personal protection that I need? What's the space that I need? What should I be wearing? How often should I be washing my hands? And don't touch your face. I mean, that's one of the really clear ones that, and I can almost bet people listening to this, as soon as I said don't touch your face, you would have had an irresistible urge to touch your face, because that's what happens, unfortunately. And, you know, at the end of the day, we've got to be personally responsible. So there's a lot of dumb leadership being shown, but there's also a lot of dumb antics from dumb people. So please don't be one of them. Let's really continue to take that personal responsibility route. You're responsible for not getting COVID. I'll talk again real soon.
Don't mock. I'm not a fool. And people who know me personally know that I am not a fool. But I won't get into the details of those. I just want people to realize that I'm not a fool. mock. I'm not a fool. Don't mock. I'm not a fool.